Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to our LitPub series or the Literary and Publishing Trade Conversations. I'm Samantha Palangka and welcome to our seventh session for today for the series of LitPub. This session is in partnership with Bookbed, Lira, Linangan sa Imahen, Retorika at Anyo, National Commission for Culture and the Arts, Paniticon.ph and Prime Trade Asia Incorporated. So before we officially start the discussion, we would just like to lay down some house rules once again. For our participants, kindly choose a conducive learning environment. As much as possible, avoid unnecessary background noise. Mute your mic at all times, but we encourage everyone to turn their camera on for this session, especially for the Q&A. Kindly send your questions through the chat box if have questions or concerns, and the moderator will be the one to raise them to the speakers. This session will also be live streamed via Facebook page, so kindly feel free to use the comment section for our Facebook viewers. After the end of the seminar, kindly fill out the evaluation form where the link can be found here in the Zoom chat box. So, for the seventh episode of our literary conversations, we have with us Mr. Kristian Cordero, once again, Tito Valiente, and Dr. Guazon-Uy to present the session entitled Death and Enchantment, a Conversation.
Magandang hapon sa lahat. Ah, welcome sa session na ito, sa pangalawang session namin mula sa Bicol. We're going live. We're live, mula sa Savage Mind dito sa lungsod ng Naga. Makakasama natin sa session na ito muli ang aking kaibigan at isang public anthropologist, isang film critic na si Tito Valiente at manunulat ng isang akdang pampanitikan na may pamagat na Tales from Ticao. Ang original na ang title ng libro ay The Last Sacristan Mayor and the Most Expensive Mass for the Dead. Yes. Ito yung libro, At ang pangalawang magbabahagi ngayong hapon ay si Dr. Maryjane Guazon-Uy. Ito naman ang kanyang libro, The Book of Pedro Bautista, a novela. So, may inihanda tayong dalawang pre-recorded video ni Tito at ni Dr. Jing Uy na mapapanood ninyo maya-maya. Ngayon, bago natin buksan ang talakay, magbabahagi kami ng isang trailer mula sa pelikulang Hinulid na aking isinulat at dinirect noong 2016 para sa Quezon City International Film Festival. Kinatatampukan ito ni Binibining Nora Honor. Let's play it.
Isipon mo sana, namumutanta ka. Nganing minsan sain, dae malingaw ka. Sa simong pagturog, asin sa pagmata, gabos na rekwerdo, simong girumduma. Isipon mo sana, namumutanta ka. Sa aldaw, sa banggi, antes ka magturog. Sarong magrangay, idulot mo sa Diyos. Nganing matiwasay sa kong pagkamuot. Isipon mo sana, namumutanta ka.
Hello, Sir Kristian. Nakamute po kayo.
Okay, maraming salamat. Nais kong sandali lamang, meron akong echo. Okay. Medyo may technical tayo dito, issue. Okay, nais kong magbahagi ng ilang, am I audible?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, very good. Nais kong magbahagi ng ilang tala tungkol sa naging proseso ng paglikha ng pelikulang Hinulid in relation to the topic that we are opening today. At nakatitiyak ako na mas may iba pang mga punto de vista ang ibibahagi si Tito bilang isang public anthropologist at isang kritiko din ng pelikula, at si Dr. Guazon-Uy na isang medical doctor at isang manunulat ng nobela. Sa puntong ito, nang pinag-usapan namin ang temang ito, hindi nalalayo ito sa current situation natin, ang usapin ng kamatayan at ang usapin ng enchantment. Maybe later on we can ask other members in the audience what is the word enchantment in their own regional languages. Magandang point yon para magkaroon tayo ng discussion at convergence mamayang sa open forum. So ngayon, dahil gusto kong talakayin yung salita mula sa mga regional na wika, dahil doon din manggagaling yung insight ko mula sa kung paano I can hear myself, mula sa kung paano ko binuo ang pelikulang Hinulid. The film, which stars Nora Honor, claims as the first film that made the country's foremost actor to speak her language, her local language, which is Rinconada, which is Bicol Rinconada, our common mother tongue. Mahalaga ito sa akin dahil bukod sa ito ang unang pagkakataon na nagsalita si Binibining Aunor ng wikang Rinconada, ito rin ang panahon, ito rin ang pelikula ay nagmula rin sa isang salita. At yon ang salitang Hinulid na may patungkol sa kamatayan at enchantment sa Tayako. Ang Hinulid ay isang imahen, isang imahen sa Bicol. This is how we call the Santo Entierro, apong makalulos sa mga Kapampangan, pero sa Bicol tinatawag siyang hamang inulid. Popular ang debosyon tuwing Biyernes Santo, tuwing mahal na araw, at tuwing Biyernes marami pa rin ang pumupunta sa kanyang kapila sa Calabanga. Ngunit bukod dito, hindi yung Calabanga ang naging yung naging ground namin. Pumunta kami sa Gainsa, sa isang mas maliit na bayan, at dito makikita ang tatlong Hinulid. Ang tulong Hinulid? At mula dito, nag-constellate kami ng isang pelikula na may pagtataya sa kung paano natin hinahasa ang alaala sa harapan ng kamatayan at ng enchantment. Ang salitang Hinulid ay nangangahulugan ng ito yung akto ng pagpapatulog sa bata. Kapag inilalagay mo na ang bata sa kuna, ihulid mo ang aki, ilagay mo na sa kuna ang sanggol. In other words, pinapatulog ang bata. Mahalaga sa akin yung salitang yon dahil it gives us a unique way of looking at death probably. Ang Santo Entierro sa Bicol ay tinatawag na Hinulid. This could probably tell us that maybe death for us is not the way other cultures would understand death. Sa Bicol, ang salitang Hinulid na may patungkol sa pagpapatulog ay nangangahulugan ng pagpapatulog. Nangangahulugan ng pagpapatulog. Could it be possible that we understand death as a way of sleeping? And when we go to that domain, the domain of sleep, we enter into the land of dreams. We enter into the land of enchantment. Dito ko nakikita o dito ko gustong ipakita sa inyo kung paano mula sa isang salitang iyon at sa pagpapakahulugan sa salitang hinulid, bumuo kami ng isang pelikulang may patungkol sa alaala, sa kwentong bayan, sa kasaysayan, sa lokal na kasaysayan, at sa mismong icon ng tulong hinulid at ang icon na si Nora Honor. Maraming pwedeng sabihin dito, maya-maya si Ginoong Valiente, dahil isa siya sa mga kritiko na may masikhay na pagpapaloob sa pelikulang ito mismo. Ngayong hapon, iniimbitahan ko kayo na bukod sa pelikula, syempre, naroon ang libro, naroon ang libro, naroon ang panitikan, naroon ang mga kwento, naroon ang mga tula, naroon ang mga sanaysay na may pagtataya sa kamatayan at enchantment. So, gusto kong ipakilala ang susunod na magsasalita sa isang pre-recorded video. Si Ginoong Tito Valiente ay isinilang sa isla ng Ticao at ang kanyang libro ay tila baga pagbabalik sa islang yon ng kanyang kabataan, ng kanyang imahinasyon, ng kanyang enchantment. Hindi ko pa binibigyan ng salitang Bicol ang salitang enchantment dahil gusto ko kayong mag-isip rin ng sa inyong salita, ng inyong salita mula sa inyong mga katutubong wika. At nasabi ko nga na malamang sa pagsusulat ng kanyang Ticao Tales, ito'y isang pagbabalik. Ito'y isang paglalakbay muli sa kanyang isla. At hindi ba't maging ang kamatayan ay tinitingnan din bilang isang pagbabalik? Mga kaibigan, sa puntong ito, nais kong ibahagi ang pre-recorded video ni Ginoong Tito Valiente.
Any story belongs to him who can tell it. The Greeks said it. When I started writing the book, the La Sacristan Mayora, the most expensive Mass for the Dead, Tales from Ticao, I was attempting to recover stories told by my grandmother, primarily, and our yaya. It was not that the stories were disappearing. It was my conscious effort to remember them. In some of the stories, I could remember the beginning, but not the ending. In some, there was an ending, but not the beginning. The worst case was finding a story with a middle, no beginning and no end. How did the character get there? Who is the dead child? Who is this grandmother who talked the spirits when she cooked the best rice cake in the island? The endings, as I call them, were not really the terminus of the tale. Somehow, the story has ended because a character has disappeared. In good cinema, and if I do venture into filmmaking, critics would hold me accountable for disappearance of characters. But I am no kidnapper. I am a narrator, a storyteller. So what I did was to write, to recover what I could recover. Where there were no leads anymore, I conjured persons and brought them into my world. Was I conscious of the death of enchantment if I stopped telling the wondrous stories about these tales of priests bothered by the devil and the powerful bells that could kill all temptations, and my great-grandfather Isidoro, who could ring those bells as only he could do it? But when he passed on, this man who saved the priest from perdition could not even get a free mass for the dead. If we base enchantment on the stereotypes of fairies and a world that disappears at will, my stories are really more about appearances. The Onglo, the handsomest man in the world, who eats stars dripping from comets, and who saves battered women and brings them into a world beyond the reach of angry, rough husband. The other great-grandmother who refuses to cure a woman being courted by an unseen man because in the world of the ordinary living, that woman will be abused by a priest. The phantom procession that goes on and on and on, seducing young girls into following a different path when the supposedly holy ritual has not yet even begun in the old church. All these are not enchantment, but rather the death of something else. What is or what they are, I have no clear idea. I wrote these tales because I wanted to listen to my memory, make them less ephemeral and less subjected to the vagaries of interpretations. There is nothing wrong with desperate readings, but I, at least, would be happier to listen to my own sounds, the sensations of my own childhood. I like the rawness of memory transcribed. I like that other people remember their own tales and write them down. Interestingly, the more we write down things, inducing a kind of permanence, the more faithful we are to a sort of truth. In books, the memories are entrusted to others, not as interpretations, but as product of senses. Folklorists and anthropologists, I of course included, can overthink and intellectualize tales. In the process, the enchantment that is documented dies. The tale becomes important in another domain, of course, but their contents and feelings have been changed. This brings me to my plea to the readers. My book is not fiction. It is meant to be an ethnography. Thus, in the end, I talk about a kind of death. But allow me to paraphrase or rephrase the epilogue. In the island of Tikal, the tales are gone because there are no more storytellers. Enchantment is dead because no one sees enchantment as it is, but as indicators of the quotidian: corruption, hunger, politics.
Maraming salamat ah Dr. Uy. Kitang-kita ka sa video. Nahulog na ang phone ni Dr. Uy.
Okay.
Sige. Maraming salamat Tito Valiente para sa yung presentation. In a while, Tito will be joining us for the open forum. So for today, let me introduce the second presenter for this conversation. Dr. Maryjane is a doctor because a dermatologist by profession and a writer by vocation. She has written the book of Pedro Bautista, his first young adult novella set in Nueva Cáceres. To talk more about her book and her project on death and enchantment, may I present to you Dr. Maryjane Guazon-Uy.
Enchantment opens up possibilities within our own borrowed time. It allows us a glimpse beyond the ultimate mysteries of death and eternity. For us, death is just another form of enchantment. We talk to our dead as if they are still with us, but just in another realm beyond our reach. We send messages and pray to the dead, asking for signs and reassurance. because we greatly fear death and its authority. Death does not need our consent. Only life requires our consent. In the story, martyrdom is an obedient consent to death as a way to gain entrance to our true citizenship in eternity. In contrast, suicide is a rebellious consent to death as an end to mortal existence. When I wrote my novella, the book of Pedro Bautista, I posed the question of death that never comes. We see death only as an end to life, but never realize that life lovingly awaits death. It is a welcome harbor at the end of a long voyage, its natural destination. Like my character who traveled endlessly on a ghost ship, we find that there is no rest when mortal life has no natural ending. I realized that every city needs its own fictional characters. This is my own gift to my city, a man who could not die. Someone closely linked to actual figures in our own history, who takes us back to the past and on to the present, then makes us look to the future with courage. Fictional characters can be transformative and inspirational. And because they make us dream, they have the power to change us. San Pedro Bautista in my story is the figure of eternity. He was the unseen presence until the very end. Therefore, we are a people in search of enchantment. Where do we find this? When we look back to our distant past, our memory fails us. There are gaping holes in our history. We have no record before the Spaniards came. Our only link are the sketchy tales from our childhood that has somehow survived and evolved over time. We hold on fast to these bits of magic. The fantastic stories we tell each other reveal so much about who we are and the way we feel. Since we were small, we were constantly warned about the taong lipod, who was out to get us into their world. There were the invisible kapingis, who live their own lives very close to us, share our dwellings, but in a parallel universe. What do they mean to us? Is this alternate life or just another alternate death? Imperial Manila's memorable fictional characters are mostly political and tragic. A century has passed and Rizal's Siza, Basilio, and Crispin still walk our streets, crazed and lost. What influence can this search for absent children have in our creative minds? If this search has to end, it has to end with the creation of our own world of riches. As the meme says, mayaman ako dahil may sarili akong mundo. Our best recourse then is to tell our own stories, because these stories will define us. We weave our future realities from our dreams of today. We will become our own fictional characters. We will become enchanted.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maryjane. We will just wait for Tito Valiente to get into the into this platform. He will be joining us in a while. He's still in another time zone. He's still in another enchantment. So meanwhile, we have Dr. Maryjane here now. If you have questions, you may chat us and we will gladly answer your queries. Do we have some questions for Dr. Jing and Professor Valiente? Oh, maybe let me ask the audience, ano, para hindi lang ito one-way process. I'm very interested to know how would we translate the word enchantment? Ano? How do we... I'm hearing myself. May echo tayo. Okay? How do we translate the word enchantment to your local languages? Meron ba? You look at the camera.
We have a problem on your audio. That's why I think the presentation was a little bit unclear. It's from your end. So we actually prefer that in the future, you should have a sort of PowerPoint presentation so that if we don't hear much, at least we can read something.
We can actually send you the draft of the presentation. It's a technological glitch, and we apologize for that.
Sure, no problem. We just want to support Dr. Jing. I am very interested to learn more about her book. That's why I came on. I'm from LA.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Okay, there's a word kamangha-mangha. Okay, as a translation for enchantment. Are there any other local words? Oh, there's a question. What inspired you to write? Okay, the question on inspiration. This is always a question that we get from people. Ano? Tito has failed to remove that green thing. I'm really sorry for that poor background of yours, Tito.
It's another webinar now. It's another webinar. They're flashing the big. They're flashing the Business Mirror logo and the title. Is that a question? What inspired you to write?
What inspired you to write? Can you answer that question, please?
It wasn't an inspiration, but rather a. I was troubled with the fact that I could not remember the stories that were told to me by my grandparents and by the yaya, and every time I talked about it, I would stop somewhere and could not continue. So I decided to create and complete the story given my own memory and my own mind. No? It was not an inspiration. I was okay. Did that answer it?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Tito.
Okay.
What about you, Dr. Jing?
Can you hear me now? Can I unmute myself?
You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, so I think we need to tell our own stories because sometimes there's nothing to remember. So we have to put all these items in our memory so that we have something to remember, something to make up our past. And it's as I said in my mini lecture ahead, we got to take up stories because there are so many holes in our memory. So we have to enrich our memory with stories like these. That's all. So there's a compulsion for me to write. invent something because there's nothing there.
Thank you. Paki-unmute na lang kay Dr. Uy. Yeah, thank you. So, what inspired you to write? The word inspiration comes from a Greek word. It has something to do with breathing. If I think we breathe stories every day, and not all these stories are recorded. Not all these stories would land into our spaces. And when writers commit to writing, I think there's something there that is achieved, and that is, what Dr. Ching would say, the act of remembering. And that's very important nowadays, especially that ang bilis-bilis ng transition. Every day, if you go to your social media pages, you can move from one end to the next and really just be gone in all this information overload. So at least yung writer, nakakaroon siya ng sorting out, ng pagpipili na maitala niya ang mga kwentong ito, ang mga alaalang ito. So sa tingin ko, it comes naturally siguro. And how I wish if people can just really, I miss that moment when I used to receive long letters from my mother. I used to, like reading long letters. Ngayon, you read emails, you read texts, ang bilis-bilis. So I think it's a good thing na when we ask the question, what inspired you to write? We can also ask the question, what inspires you to read? Na pwede nating yun, pwede nating bigyan ng pansin yun. Dahil yung writer, nasa isang end lang yon. Hindi buo ang proseso kung walang mambabasa. So there's a kind of alchemy there. There's a kind of enchantment there when the writer and the reader meet along the way. And that is through the medium that is called the book, ang aklat. So kanina, yan, meron na tayong mga, I hope the three of us answered your question kung ano ang what inspired us to write or what inspires us to write. So ngayon, meron na tayong mga ilang salita para sa word na enchantment. Maraming salamat sa mga pinapadala ninyo, nababasa namin. Gusto ko yung salitang bighani. Pagkabighani, may pagkabighani ang enchantment, well, gayuma is another form of enchantment, but I'm wondering, what about in the Visayas? What about in the languages in Mindanao? What could be the word of enchantment? Pwedeng pag-isipan at pwedeng ipadala ang mga tanong sa amin o ang mga sagot ninyo sa amin. Lumay. So what do you think of this, Tito? Yung gayuma, yung lumay. Lumay din sa yung lumay kasi sa Bicol, gayuma na lumay. A certain kind of possession, 'di ba? A certain kind of possession. Yung mga writers madalas ma-possess. And when you become a reader yourself, you are also possessed. May possession na napaglaruan. Si Alan Girain nandito. I-unmute ako, natin si Tito.
Sa Tikaw, it's called nasibrawan. Parang something was thrown to you, no? Nasibrawan or natiawan. But tiaw is parang to inflict a kind of bad joke upon you. Natiawan, okay? Dahil may ginagamit ang naibanan, no? There's naibanan. Because actually, enchantment is different from possession. The encanto does not possess you, but rather the encanto brings you to his world. Dinadara ka, nawawalat. What is left in the world of the living is your animo, no? Na naiintindihan ng ibang tao, but you're somewhere else, no? Okay. Can I answer the question if why did I write fiction or why I'm interested in fiction. My book is not fiction. I always insist on that. No? Kaya na problema ang mga critics when they were trying to categorize it because it's an ethnography. No, it's a collection of data. I was attempting to create a picture of the island, not in terms of maps, not in terms of statistics, but in terms of the stories they tell. No, so it's an ethnography. No, but wala, our world is such a boring world that we live by categories that are so dull. Fiction, non-fiction, novel, poetry, essay, etc. No, I don't believe in boundaries. No, that's why Enchantment is really a subversion of boundaries. And so even when I do research on the Encantos, the reason I'm able to access the data is because I do not distinguish, the world of the human from the world of the non-humans, the world of the seen from the world of the unseen. I write them down, and at certain points, and this is my favorite story, most of the healers I interviewed were scared of me because they felt I had more power over them. And I don't know where that was coming from, no? And I will stay with that, no? Maybe I am a healer myself. Maybe I'm also an enchanted being. That's why I'm able to write about enchantment. Anong sabi ni Claude Lévi-Strauss that inspired the name Savage Mind? It takes a madman to cure another madman. Okay? It takes madness to understand madness. It takes an enchanted being to understand enchantment.
Thank you, Tito. Dr. Uy would like to share something, so let's hear it from a healer herself.
Yes, I feel that I have to say something as a physician. In the world of medicine, what you have not written down did not exist. So what was not written did not happen. So you have to write things down for it to happen. I have to write things down to remember and to make things happen. So this is very important. I am realistic as well as enchanted. So it has to exist, coexist in this world, both of these worlds.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Uy. Please unmute her. Okay, may pumalakpak. Any other questions from the audience, please? Okay. Kanina sa presentation ni Dr. Jing, gusto kong magtanong, may mga doktor tayo dito sa audience, may mga estudyante tayo dito sa audience. Maganda yung tanong niyang, where do we find our own enchantment? Napaka-active nung position natin doon. Tayo ang maghahanap. While we grew up being told not to trespass the areas, those unknown areas na sinasabing, di ka magdyan, huwag kang pupunta dyan dahil maiibanhan ka o maiengkanto ka o ma-enchant ka, pero sa tanong na yon, where do we find enchantment? Tayo ang maghahanap sa mga ito, So, I would like to ask the audience, where do you find your own enchantment? Okay, mamaya meron tayong tanong from Nelly, or you want to answer that question now? The question is, Tito, please read it for me. From Nelly.
Do you consider writing self-help books to empower others? No.
Oops. Yeah, can you answer that question?
I I don't write self-help books, so um, yeah, but I write books, and I always believe any kind of book can help people in whatever way. No, it doesn't have to be an in-your-face self-help book, but any kind of book. You can learn anything from any kind of book. I read all kinds of books. Kristian knows that. I read dirty books. I read pure books. I read any kind. I read tabloid and I read Vanity Fair. We all learn from it. No? But because people are writing down the meaning of enchantment, may I share with you something that is maybe unique to the island where I was born? And the people from Camarines Norte, Jen, you can relate to this, Jennifer. The word Abyan is a name that has been adopted by Camarines Norte to represent a friend, no? But it's also a word for agta from Norte up to some parts of Sierra Madre. But in Ticao Island, Naabyan means to be enchanted, because one of the forms of enchanted beings in the island is an agta, not that the ethnic community group, but a kind of dark person, na half duende, half dark person. So I don't know how to explain it from a point of enchantment. I'd like to explain it from a historical perspective. I think the Spanish people demonized the black skin to a point that the agta, because they could not be converted, were all demonized and considered evil or devil. No? So it's part of our very bad colonial history, no? Which the historians can never uncover.
Thank you for pointing that out, Tito. I would like to follow it up, follow up on what Tito said, because Dr. Jing, in her book, The Book of San Pedro Bautista, ang ganda-ganda pala pag may title kang book sa word na book sa libro mo, in the book of Pedro Bautista has a character that is an agta. Can you tell us about that character, Dr. Jing?
I felt that I had to write about the agta because they seem to me like enchanted beings. And you're right, Tito. When I was a child, I saw this agta, and my playmates used to tell me that they were aswangs. They were othered. Don't look into their eyes because they are enchanted beings. They will get you into their world. And incidentally, I couldn't forget this agta, which my playmate showed to me, because this agta had a hemorrhage in her eye. She was also a child just like me, and I was thinking of at that time, was that the mark of the aswang? And then as a doctor now, I realized that she only had conjunctival hemorrhage. So these are many things that make us think of enchanted beings. They were just different in a way that they lived in the mountains. So I felt they were enchanted. I had to write about them, and I had to thresh out the feelings that I went through when I was a child. So that's it.
Yeah. Please unmute, Dr. Uy. Yeah. Thank you. Magandang binuksan itong usapin tungkol sa agta. Ako mismo ay meron ding mga ilang pagtataya tungkol sa kanila, dahil I think Tito is right when he said that it's really our bad colonial history that relegated them to that position of the other, the one that is possessed and has the power to possess. May double blade yon, possessed na at kaya pa ring makapossess. I myself have been warned not to look into their eyes. Nung bata pa ako sa Iriga, I grew up with all those admonitions telling me not to look into the eyes of the agta. Pero makita natin, babalikan ko yung yung kung paano yung salita mismo ay nagbabago-bago ang pagpapakahulugan. Binuksan ko sa usapin ng hinulid bilang ang pagtulog, ang kamatayan bilang pagtulog. Ngayon si Tito meron sinabi tungkol sa kung paano yung agta, yung abyan naging kaibigan, naging agta, at naging sa isang isla sa Ticao kung saan siya ipinanganak at lumaki, naging salita para sa possession, di ba Tito? Yung abyan. So kung makikita natin nasa wika yung mismong maitatala nating kasaysayan ng mga kahulugan, a history of meanings that can actually help us see our position at this point. So sa Bicol, malinaw yung pagiging other nila. Sila yung talagang nasa I hate to use the word, pero ito yung laylayan, yung talagang nandoon sa dulo na hindi na natin pinapansin, hindi natin ngayon sa mga relief operations, we hardly hear from we hardly hear anything about them. Si Tito was telling me na kasi yung perception natin kahit anong bagyo, survivors sila, but we went there, we visited there, and the situation is far worse than what we are experiencing in lowland Bicol. So are there any other thoughts, comments? Just keep them going, please. Tito, can you read for us?
There's a comment on considering how we live today, people wallowing in social media. It's also a modern take of being enchanted by the wonders of technology, for good or bad. No? Tapos si Alan is saying, spirit guardian ng mangrove trees ang agta sa Palawan. Yeah, in my story actually, my experience of being naabyan was because we played around the Atimoya tree, and ang kwento is nagalit ang mga agta. And so that evening, they were pelting the house of my grandmother with mud, balls made of mud. No? And the next morning, there were really balls made of mud. No? So I never asked myself, totoo ba siya o gawa-gawa ng kapitbahay? I just let it be. No? Tapos, by the way, babalikan ko lang yung aking libro na Tales from Ticao. Binabalikan ko na ngayon. I'm reading it from a different lens, and I discovered that I was reacting actually to enchantment that has something to do with the Spanish colonization. Bakit pag na-enchant tayo, palaging prinsipe ng mga inkanto? Parang walang common tao sa mga inkanto, no? And bakit prinsesa palagi ng mga inkanto? Even when I interviewed a healer who turned out to be an evil person in one town in Camarines Sur, no? Because he disappeared with a house, no? Sinabi niya na ang anak niya disappeared because the anak niya became a prinsesa. This time it's a different case. Hindi inagaw na naging prinsesa sa mundo ng mga inkanto. So in one of my stories, it's about, in fact, the first story I made was called The Dance of Concordia. It's a story about a woman who kept on dancing and dancing, pagod na siya, because the prince of the Encantos kept on, asking her to dance with him. And so tinawag ang great-grandmother who was a healer, and sinabi na bawiin siya from the principe. Then my great-grandmother saw Concordia and said, I'll perform. Hindi niya sinabi sa mga tao, but I'll perform a different ritual. Ibibigay ko na lang siya sa mga inkanto kasi pag pinalaya ko siya, aabusuhin siya ng mga pare. Because that was the story behind her, whatever, insanity or depression. Kasi ginagalaw siya ng mga pare. No? So you could sense, if I do an objective reading of my story, you could sense a very strong anti-church, anti-Roman Catholic Church, anti-Spanish, anti-elite kind. Because kwento ito ng mga tao sa maliit na isla. No? So I think we should be conscious of that. Na ang kwento, even if it's something that is so ridiculously incredible, nagkikwento siya tungkol sa atin, hindi sa mga unseen beings. No? Yun ang aking habol bilang isang antropologo.
Thank you, Tito. Professorial lecture tayo. Dr. Jing, would you like to say something about technology and enchantment? Magandang magandang punto yon. I love that it was brought to this conversation, because it's unmute mo muna, Doc Jing. Yeah, thank you. I like that it dinala yung isyong yon dito. We always hear parents complaining that children are no longer into physical sports but they're more into computer games. Dinidiscredit yung computer games. Parang may clash ng to borrow, hindi naman clash of spirits ito, kaya hindi ko nahihiramin. Yung punto lang na technology is seen as evil. Merong ganon. We without which this online conversation will not be possible. Pero yung parental eye, that eye of a parent would always see technology as something disastrous, as something evil. So is it a kind of enchantment? Are we being possessed by technology? What's your take on this, Dr. Uy?
It's thank you. Was this Jen Cheng who put up the comment?
No.
It's Nelly.
Jason Vega.
Oh, thank you, Jason. Indeed, we can consider that technology is a form of enchantment. Indeed, our children are getting enchanted. But just as Kristian said, we are discussing this at the moment because we need to take control of this enchantment. We need to lead this form of enchantment and not just be carried away. These forms of enchantment, we can be enchanted at any time. We fall in love, we get enchanted. But there are enchantments which we can control. There are enchantments which we can use for the good. So, do you want to be carried away or do you want to control it? I mean, that's a question. So, that for me is a question for us to take control of technology.
Okay. Sige. What about you? Please unmute yourself, Dr. Uy. I keep telling her, she's just there. Nandito lang kami. I keep telling her and she's looking at me now. Oh yeah. She cannot look at the camera straight. She's afraid of being enchanted. Okay, Tito, I would like to ask the same question to you. Please unmute yourself muna. Patapusin niyo muna ako. Ito talagang dalawang kaibigan kong to. Pareho yan nag-usap ng color coding yang mga yan. But Tito has just this green background. Thanks for that insightful answer, Dr. Uy. Control or what's the other word? Or lose control. Ako parang gusto kong sa enchantment mag-lose control ako. Okay, Tito, what's your take on that? Technology, please.
I think technology is creating another world. So it's enchantment. May isang mundo siyang nabubuo and it has different rules, no? I remember early on nung bago pa lang ang internet, I think I created too many email addresses. And sometimes I would see myself all at the same time online. And para sa akin, the enchanted person or the aswang, if we may include the aswang in the discourse, no? Ang aswang na may highly mobile, nakikita dito, nakikita sa kabila, lumilipad kaagad, Nagkikwento ang mother ko noon na when she was teaching in the public school, they were walking, tapos nasa likod nila ang isa kong lolo, kasi lahi ako ng mga aswang, no? Nasa likod nila ang isa kong lolo, then when they reached the boundary of the town, yung lolo namin was already there waiting for one of my grandparents, waiting for them. So sabi nila, saan ka galing, no? So that kind of, so technology is like that, no? You can present yourself in many ways, no? I remember, we're all mature naman here, no? I remember nasa chat room ako noon and my favorite number is 11. So I put Tito 11 and everybody was trying to talk with me because they were thinking 11 could represent something in my body siguro, no? That's enchantment, no? You can create a new person, you can create a new character uh, by using these technologies. Ito na lang mga Photoshop, ito na lang mga new applications na nagiging lalaki, nagiging babae, ang babae nagiging lalaki, ang babae nagiging lalaki. I think that's enchantment. You're looking at and you're falling in love with the person na ikaw din, no? Jen, I think, was talking about passion and love being enchantment. I think so, no? So malawak ang notion ng enchantment. And technology heightens that, articulates that further, no? New universes. Hindi lang ito. Kaya nga kung ang technology nakaka-create ng ibang realities, how much more the idea na may mga taong hindi nakikita but they matter to us and for us, no? May effect sila sa kanila. We don't see them at all, but they have an effect on us. So it's very similar to what technology can create, no? Hologram, etc., etc. Mute myself, actually.
Mute. Nalito na ako sa kanina pa ako unmute, mali pala. Well, thank you Tito for that insightful comment. Yung otherness, yung enchantment na pinag-uusapan natin. I remember a particular story. I'm glad that Tito brought the aswang, and Alan Dirain is in this platform who edited a very one of the most fantastic Philippine anthologies on the aswang so far. May isang kwento si Alan Dirain, may isang kwento si Marx Lopez na taga Sipocot, Camarines Sur. Ipa-plug ko yung bayan, mga Bicolano. Isang kwento tungkol sa aswang na nakakulambitay sa isang billboard, at you can imagine the aswang of our childhood, yung ganoong naghunos na katawan, and the aswang is feeling all the signals that we're sending. Ganoon ka visceral yung description sa kwentong iyon ni Marx Lopez, and I'm leading you to that image because of that question that propelled this insight, yung technology. Nasasakop tayo ng teknolohiya. Sinasakop natin ang teknolohiya. I have a question for Tito or for Dr. Uy, either sa inyong dalawa o sino man sa audience. Alan is here, he can also participate. Sa tingin nyo, yung technology na gawa natin, abot ang realm ng mga enchanted beings na kinikilala natin? What is your take on that, Tito and Jing?
Hindi ko pa alam kasi I always rely on fieldwork. But let me tell you what happened in my long study of pagbawi o santiguar, no, in Bicol. In the 1980s sa Magarao, when I interviewed a parabawi, no, a healer, ang hiningi niya from the family na yung bata affected by the Encanto was Ginebra San Miguel and I think Hope cigarette, no? Yun ang ibibigay sa mga Encanto para ma-appease sila, because in Bicol anyway, I don't know with the other regions, enchantment can be negotiated. So ang pagbawi sa iyo is not, so it's not exorcism, no? Ang daming foreign anthropologists or even ethnographers na nagkakamali, they call it it's not exorcism, because enchanted beings are not evil, no? They're not evil. They have the right to stay there. Just like us. Anyway, after mga 20 years, I went back to the same place Iba na ang hinihingi ng Encanto, hindi na Hinebra San Miguel, kundi white shirt. I don't know why white shirt. Tapos, beer na San Mig Light. This is not an advertisement. So naging cool ang Encanto. So what will stop them from being part of the new technology? Remember the Japanese horror film na lumabas ang multo galing sa TV. And people were saying, fantastic. That's not fantastic. Talaga namang may mga lumalabas na multo at kababalaghan sa television. Mga hindi karapat-dapat na nakikita natin lumulusot dyan. Ang ingay ni Chris Aquino, si Vice Ganda. Those are the new forms of what? Monstrosities na lumalabas sa TV. No? So, what will stop the mobile phone na pag pinindot mo ang isang number na dadala ka sa lugar na wala ng kabikulan, na wala na ang kauragan, no? Mayo ng uragon. Okay? Na wala ng mga anthropologists, na wala ng mga experts. A world of equal enchantment. Kaya hindi maaalis yan, no? Believe me, umiinit na ako.
Yeah, mute mo, Tito. Thank you, Tito. Thank you, Tito. That's another professorial lecture. Salamat. May isang comment, next time daw iPhone na ang hihingiin ng mga Encanto, And we can only wait for that, Kanina may comment siguro kanina meron akong nabasa on how do you negotiate the real and then the enchantment in your fiction, in your writings. Mukhang nasagot ito ni Tito kanina na for him walang distinction, walang line that divides the real and the unreal, the real and the surreal. I'm inclined to that kind of thinking as well. Tayo lang naman yung hindi na namamangha, nabibighani. Dahil if you come to think of it, alimbawa sa mga hayop na lang, these animals have survived, have populated the earth before us, and yet they are still here. Ang una kong karanasan ng pagkakakita sa butanding sa Sorsogon ay talagang kinabaliwan ko ang ganoong kamangha-manghang eksena at a little science will deepen that kind of understanding na itong mga gentle giants na ito ay naglalakbay sa buong mundo na hindi ko magagawa in my lifetime. May isa akong kaibigang diplomat sa Czech embassy nung araw, si Jan Vitofil, na he's a diplomat and he came to Bicol to climb Mount Isarog, and then ang isa sa kanyang interest, hindi siya professional na nasa field na yon. Ang isa niyang interest ay ang mga halaman, at tinuturo niya sa akin yung mga halaman na hindi ko kinikilala o hindi ko pinapansin bilang mga halaman that antedates the presence of the dinosaurs in this planet. And that for me was just like, so science in itself is a kind of like it's an enchanting discipline. And I can only surmise na sa disiplina ng mga doktor, So I'm going to ask you, Dr. Uy, you're a dermatologist, And then kanina napag-usapan yung blackness as that represented the abyan, the agta, as a kind of yung possession na yon, yung evil na yon na nire-represent natin. What do you think of that? Ano yung taya mo sa skin? Why do we judge people according to that particular color? And siguro, do you see yourself na ikaw bilang doktor ng balat, skin doctor, bilang dermatologist, at the same time you're a writer of story, nine-negotiate mo din ba yung cause na I better change the way people think in terms of the agta, in terms of blackness, in terms of all this social stigma we attach against real human beings? So please take it away.
I don't want to try too hard, I don't want to try to change the world. I would like to make incremental changes, small enchantments that perhaps will make a difference later on. balik tayo sa technology. Technology talagang enchantment yun. I see enchantment as a way for us to understand things that we have no control of. So technology as an enchantment makes sense of a lot of difficulties. Kaya lang, ang technology has already become real. So enchanted nga siya. Yung mga enchanted, yung mga hindi pa natin naiintindihan. Pero papunta na tayo doon. So tingin ko kasi, life, death, eternity, enchantment makes sense out of everything. Parang ganun. We can't be there yet. We can't be here yet. Pero nandito tayo sa life, finite ang time, enchantment encompasses everything there. Parang ganun yung tingin ko. Sa pagiging doktor, ano ba yung balat natin? We are identified by the color of our skin. Our skin degenerates or nagkakasakit. We are severely affected by that because we see our skin first. This is the organ that we present to the world. Ang laki ng impact sa buhay natin ng balat. Even if hindi critical yung mga pasyente namin, kadalasan hindi critical. Kadalasan nagpapa-beauty lamang. Wag nating i-smallin yun. I was thinking, dermatologist, ano yun, manikurista? Kinain ko ang mga salitang yon. Kasi nakita ko, ang laki ng impact pala ng pagbabago ng balat. Yung maging normal ka lang, malaking bagay sa buhay mo yun. So, those are the things that come into my mind as a healer. Kasi ano yun bokasyon talaga. Nakakabago ka ng buhay. Laking bagay. May writing about it. I only aim at small changes. I don't try too hard. I don't expect too much. So, palagay ko, tama na yun, di ba? You cannot compare, yun, tama na yun. Ganun lang talaga. Konting small enchantments make your day. So, yun lang.
Thank you. Maraming salamat, Dr. Uy. Magta-time check ako. It's 3:11. It's 3:11, pwede ko ba may mga tanong pa ba? Hindi ko kasi mabasa yung chat box. NBDB, please. NBDB?
Yes.
Can you read some questions, please?
Yes. We have here po from Miss Jenny Cheng.
Yes.
I'm sorry. From Sir Jeffson. Mali po. How can we present the human body as an art in the realm of enchantment daw po?
Ang hirap ng tanong. Ang hirap ng tanong. Parang thesis question. Ang hirap ng tanong.
Jeffson, ang hirap ng tanong mo. Well, can I make sense of it this way? Can I respond to this? The body participates in enchantment, no? Kasama yan palagi. And I'll give you a particular case. I don't want to do a motherhood statement kasi when I was doing again a research in one part in Masbate, I posed what I felt would be my fear when it comes to being a healer. Sabi ko, what happens if the person who is enchanted has become wild and uncontrollable, no? How do I deal with that? Hindi siya mapalabas, kinukulong na sa bahay. If you're reading The Golden Bough by Edmund Fraser, may dalawa siyang notions of magic, sympathetic magic and homeopathic magic. The idea that like is like, and then what is connected to you can be used against and for you, no? So sabi ng matanda, no, hindi na kailangan dalhin ang bata dito. Dalhin lang dito sa bahay ko ang kanyang sinuot na t-shirt, no? So I went there, na dala na nung magulang yung t-shirt nung bata na enchanted, na ang isip niya is somewhere, nasa lugar na ng mga engkanto. Yun ang ginawa ng matanda, pinalo niya ng pinalo ang t-shirt. Sabi niya, Roberto, pinapalo niya pinalo. Bumalik ka na sa nanay mo. Huwag mo na siya, umiiyak na siya. Pinapalo niya ng pinapalo. By the time the mother went back to the house, the boy was normal again. No? So the body is there. But it's not the body that's physical, but it's the body that moves through and between realms. No? In that sense, you can say that the body is really part of enchantment. Hindi siya nawawala. Kasama siya sa pagkikwento, sa paglalahad ng pagbawi, no? Because that's what the word we use in Bicol, binabawi ang animo na dinala ng mga engkanto, ang isip, yung normalcy, if you may use the word, but I'm not fond of using the word normal. What is norm anyway? No? Okay.
Thank you, Tito. Maraming salamat, Tito. Would you like to add to that question, to answer that question, Dr. Uy?
Can you repeat the question?
Pakiulit nung tanong.
From Jeffson, how can we
Yes.
present the human body as an art in a realm of enchantment po?
So yung body, art, at enchantment, Doc Ching, paano natin mapag-uugnay-ugnay ang usapin ng katawan, ang usapin ng enchantment, at ang usapin ng sining? Later on, I will contribute to that question. Let's just pick those words para makabuo tayo ng sagot para sa kay Jefferson.
I think your body is the only thing that you have right now, as well as your soul. So I think what Tito was talking about just a while ago was that your other person, the soul, is the one that could transfer from one place to the other by location siya. But your body is what you have at the moment. So this is your base. So we need to treat the body as well as the soul together, because we are here in reality. Para sa akin, ganun yun. So, lahat yun, saklaw ng enchantment.
Can I?
Okay, Maryjane. There's a question here which concerns you a lot, no? You are the real topic on enchantment is a question, eh. Ako, I'm the other version of the Encanto. Can you read it? It's from Nelly. I think we have to identify the difference of the real topic on enchantment. So how do you deal with that? Vis-a-vis my version of the Encanto. I think, if I may rephrase it, if you don't mind, for people also listening, I think the problem that we're encountering here is that we have a medical doctor who writes about enchantment, and we're trying to press her into remaining in the realm of, the pathology, the germs, the virus. But remember, guys, the medicine that we're having right now is a new construct. This was never present in 1800. Who knows what will happen 40, 50 years from now? This could disappear, no? That's my version, no? Because I'm not into that. I'm not a doctor, I'm an anthropologist, no? And I take in everything that is said about culture. Walang mali sa anthropology, so just lay it out. Because you don't know the other cultures. You don't know what is good in them, what is bad in them. Well, yeah, but you have to work on that, Maryjane. How do you deal with that? Paano ka na paniniwala ng pasyente mo? Naniniwala ka pala sa mga santiguar. Oh, paano na yan? I will
Mute myself.
I have to answer that. I always tell my patients. So anyway, there's no quarrel between reality and enchantment. None at all. I tell my patients that for those, I talk to them and talk about healing, okay? So I want complete healing of the body. I want to treat the problem. However, when they have these false beliefs about healing and stuff like that, I tell them, do not let evil spirits do not let them into your heart or in your mind or in your body or in your soul. Keep them away. Let the realm of medicine heal you because that's your body. So para sa akin ganun lang. Huwag mo silang papapasukin sa mundo mo, lalo na kung makakasama sa'yo. Ako naman bilang isang doktor, let's not ignore this aspect of the mind that continues to be enchanted. So para sa akin, para maka-level up ka sa pasyente mo, level up ha, para maka-level ka sa kanila, dapat maintindihan mo rin yung kanilang mga paniniwala at dapat sakyan mo yun. So, yan ang sinasabi ko sa kanila. Do not let evil spirits into your life. Okay? Kung gusto mong gumaling. So, maniwala ka sa akin, dito ka gagaling. Gumagaling sila. So there's no quarrel. So, ang enchantment also opens up possibilities. Thinking outside the box. Tama yung sinabi mo, Tito. Medicine as we know it right now might not be here anymore. In just a few years, iba na. So, pwede rin yun. So, anong ginagawa natin ngayon? Think outside the box. Get enchanted. Think about possibilities. Ganun yun. Yung mga si H.G. Wells, mga sci-fi stories, they're happening now. Enchantment yun.
Thank you. Maraming salamat, Dr. Uy. Gusto kong magpahayag ng ilang kuro tungkol sa tanong na 'yon, sa binuksang mga pahayag ni Tito. I think Dr. Uy here is a good case to talk about yung pagiging doktor at pagiging manunulat. We have a good lineup of doctors who are into the creative fields, at hindi ako ang unang nagpahayag nito. Marami sa mga estudyanteng may kamangha-manghang talento sa pagsusulat ay yung mga nasa ganitong disiplina. What I think is problematic is when we try to limit ourselves according to our disciplines, and that has been the malady that has inflicted the academe itself. Yung categorization ng mga bagay-bagay. We get so fascinated with catalogs. Napaka-limited nung scope. Pag doktor ka, dito ka lang, wala kang ibang aspect sa buhay mo. Pag yung in one way or another, the specialization has killed creativity dahil dun ka na lang sa bagay na yun nakatuon. Dun ka na lang, wala ka ng ibang sakop, wala ka ng ibang concern, wala ka ng ibang interest. Gusto ko ding, I hope that contributed to the discussion which Tito brought about yung pagiging doktor at pagiging manunulat. At ako nakikita ko yung mga the word is liminality. Yung mga maging borderless. Maging borderless, maging flexible sa mga bagay-bagay. And we have been saying this the same thing kanina sa unang episode ng Himate. May tanong tungkol sa ito'y importanteng tanong, where can we buy the book? Importanteng tanong 'yon. Salamat sa nagtanong, dahil yun naman talaga ang isa sa subtle agenda natin, na ma-promote natin ang mga librong pampanitika ng mga Pilipinong autor. Ang mga libro ni Dr. Uy at ni Doc Jing ay mabibili sa Ateneo de Manila University Press, mabibili din ito sa Solidaridad at sa Savage Mind Bookshop. You can message us via Facebook and we'll send it to you. We do delivery we'll love that to give this book to you, na magkaroon kayo ng kopya. Bilhin nyo. Malaking suporta yon sa aming munting bookshop dito sa lungsod ng Naga. Meron pa ba tayong tanong, NBDB staff? Ito naman yung aking aklat, Kulto ni Santiago na nilathala ng University of the Philippines Press at yung Labi na nilathala ng Ateneo de Manila University Press. You can buy these two books of mine via Lazada. Ongoing ngayon ang Manila International Book Fair. Pwede nyo itong mabili at discounted price. Pero kung gusto nyo ng autograph, nag-autograph dito na lang sa Savage Mind. Maraming salamat po. Meron pa ba tayong tanong, NBDB, na hindi ko nabasa before we go to the conclusion of this conversation?
Yes po, meron po from
Please.
Beatrice.
Okay.
Beatrice May, sabi niyo po, ay random question lang po. What can you say to those people who doesn't believe in enchanted things? Can we do something about their mindset?
To answer that?
Yes, please, Tito.
Wala. I mean, if they don't believe in enchanted beings, I suppose they wouldn't believe in the rituals to appease the enchanted beings. Wala. I mean, we don't have to campaign, no? Dapat maniwala sila sa, I mean, if I may use your word, mindset, no? Wala. They don't believe in it. Then walang problema, no? In other words, I won't convince them to go to the healers because masakit ang tiyan. I won't do that now because I'm not the doctor also. No, I'm not a doctor. I won't do that. But hindi ko sila pakikialaman. In fact, I don't go around campaigning, this is the world of enchantment, this is the better world. I don't do that, no. I tell a story, I report an ethnography, and that's as far as I can go. Yan ang problema ng anthropologists, hindi kami nagpiprescribe. Kaya hindi kami masyadong popular. Katulad ng mga economists, palaging may model ng development, ready ka agad dyan. Political scientists, may theory paano papunta ang governance. Ang anthropologists, walang sinasabi. Naglalahad lang. No? So I'm doing that. Naglalahad lang ako.
Dr. Shane.
Do we prescribe this kind of mindset? No, just like Tito, we let it be. It's just a way of thinking, and the way I want it to be is that we just have to open up possibilities, because when we do that, we are able to solve present problems. We are able to have a new way of thinking. That for me is the most important thing. Maybe you can solve your present situation by creative thinking, and that has been the way since before, the way of the future.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Uy. Tito is about to leave now because he's being called to another world where we cannot go, and that's the world of the enchanted creatures. He's into another. Tito, before you leave, you maybe this is the last question for our two panelists. May I ask, what is your future project? Okay. Okay, what is your future project? Si Dr. Uy, wag niyo nang pansinin dahil nakatingin laging ganyan dahil she's not looking at the camera. Hindi niya nakikita si Tito. She wants to see Tito in the real world. Not in the enchanted world of technology. So Tito, take it away.
Okay, thank you. I am writing right now I have columns now, so I write every week. 1, 2, 3, 4 essays every week. Pero ang next book project ko is about the characters in the island. No, these are regular characters na nakita ko when I was growing up. Ang problema ko lang is, I think the relatives are still alive, and baka ako malibel, no? Because the stories are real stories about real people can be very enchanting, no? Yung mga crimes of passion, yung mga ganon. When I write them down, sabi ko, ano kayo sasabihin ng mga pinsan ko? What will they say about this, no? About this person na hindi naniwala sa Diyos, na hindi niya pinabinyagan ng kanyang mga anak. So when he was about to die, nahihirapan siya, lumalabas yung dila niya, humahaba na ganyan ang aking mga kwento. And it's not about enchantment, no? Nung mahaba yung kanyang dila, kakarating daw sa may pusod, no? Yun ang aking mga susunod na kwento. Or about two relatives na both of them were middle-aged and they figured in a rape case, no? And Alan, you would be very interested in this. Lumalabas na yung lalaki, one late, siguro 8 in the evening, hinabol niya yung babae na actually cousin niya, at ang kwento sa korte, nire-rape niya yung cousin niya. But yung mga nakakaalam were saying na hindi, nagpapasangup siya is the term for the passion that, you know, hits the aswang, na kailangan niyang i-vent yung kanyang energy sa loob, and he does that by either burying yung buhok niya sa ground o kaya parang makikipag-wrestling siya sa isang tao, no? To a point na parang nire-rape, but actually it's not. So those are my stories, no? Real stories about real people. But the more I look at them, then the more I'm saying na parang mga engkanto din pala sila in many ways. No? But I'm very cautious na dapat hindi ganun ang takbo ng aking kwento. So that's my next project. I have started writing the book already. Thank you.
Thank you, Tito. Dr. Uy, tell us about your future project.
At the moment, I'm very interested about the aswang. I have already come up with a structure. However, I have also been sidetracked by so many other stories that are coming up, and they happen to be real. So I have a problem like Tito, and my son said that I'm going to have a problem with data privacy. So I have to hide these characters into enchanted beings, so that I would not get into trouble. The thing is, I'm finding out that reality can sometimes be more enchanting than fiction, but sometimes also reality can be very harsh. So yun ang mga tumatakbo sa utak ko ngayon. Marami akong sinusulat, hindi pa siya organized. So siguro dapat muna akong magpaka-writer. Kasi sobra ako ngayong nagpapaka-doktor, saka na dapat magpaka-writer ako talaga para sumulatan naman ako ng isa pang compilation, parang ganun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Uy. So, maraming salamat kay Dr. Jing Uy at Tito Valiente sa pagsama sa atin sa conversation na ito. Hindi natin masyadong nabigyang pansin ang kamatayan, hindi naman sasabihin kong nalihis ang diskusyong ito. Baka nga dahil ang kamatayan ay isang uri lamang ng enchantment o pagkabighani. At ano pa nga ba ang pinaka mainam na uri ng kamatayan kundi ang pagpapaloob ng mga buhay natin sa loob ng aklat. Meron akong minsang nabasa na every time we open a book, we cease to exist because from that time on, it's no longer us that matters, but the story that is written in that particular book. Gusto kong yon ang iwan namin sa inyo bilang closing statement sa bahaging ito ng ating conversation. And allow me to read a quote from the Italian writer Niccolo Machiavelli. Nabasa ko ito sa Facebook post ng isang kaibigang manunulat na si Wilfredo Pascual. Ito yung quote ni Andre Aciman sa kanyang introduction sa 2020 Best American Essays. Machiavelli writes, "When evening comes, I return to my house and enter my study. And at the door, I take off the day's clothing covered with mud and dirt and put on garments regal and courtly, and fitted out appropriately, I enter the venerable courts of the ancients. where welcome with affection. I feed on that food which only is mine and which I was born for, where I am unashamed to speak with them and to ask them the reason for their actions. And they, in their kindness, answer me. And for 4 hours, I do not feel boredom. I forget every trouble. I do not dread poverty. I am not terrified of death. Maraming salamat. Diyos mabalos sa gabos. Ini si Kristian Cordero, kaibahan si Tito Valiente, asin si Maryjane, asin ang National Book Development Board, nagsasabing tagkod sa sunod na hirilingan na mayo na ang pandemya. Mabalos.
Maraming salamat po, Sir Kristian, Sir Tito, Dr. Maryjane, for your time and sharing your expertise and knowledge on these matters sa Death and Enchantment, a conversation. Muli, para sa ating mga viewers and mga participants na nakilahok, maraming salamat for attending, for giving your time and being part of the LitPub. Before we end, may we ask everyone to open their cameras for a photo documentation lang po. Ayan. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Smile, everyone. Okay. Another set po kasi marami po tayo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, maraming salamat po. And I hope to see you all tomorrow po sa ating last but not the least panel for this LitPub series. Before you go, may I ask everyone to kindly fill up the evaluation form that we have sent here in our chat box or that will be emailed to you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye.